Welcome to this edition of Zentangle Quickies. My name is Heather Hartwick Gladden. I'm a Certified Zentangle Teacher, and I am so excited to bring to you today Cadent. I can't believe I didn't do this one first. This is one of my very, very favorite tangles. It's actually I think it's one of the first ones that when my mom was showing me this thing that she thought I might like, that I was like, oh yeah, right, Mom, sure I will. It's art. I don't know about that. But I did, and this one just blew me away, so much so that it was just like, wow, so I could do this, and wow, isn't that amazing? And literally just, I was addicted from there. So this tangle starts out, it's a grid tangle, but there's a couple different types of grid tangles in my book. One that are line grids, where you're like drawing a checkerboard. And then the other kind are a grid of either dots or squares or something. This one is on orbs. So I'm going to start right here because this is what I like to do. I'm going to start in the middle with a, and this is one of those, you can draw these as big as you want. In the official step outs, these are open orbs. What I generally do is color them in. But this is something that you can color them in later. When I make my grids, especially this kind, I picture squares at a time because it helps me to ensure that I'm making a grid as best as possible. One of the things about Zentangle is, we don't promote using graph paper, or drawing things out ahead of time, little, or using rulers or anything like that. This is strictly freehand, and I know some do, and, that's up to you. However, I would put out a challenge if if you were, like using, something that helps you create nice straight lines or a perfect grid. I'd encourage you to just kind of step out of your box a little bit and give it a try, just doing it freehand. So that's why I do this, is I'll start in the middle and then just work out from there. And because it's this is a grid of orbs, again, it helps me to try to keep them square. What I found that what's happening to me was, I'd start where I'd say I'd want to, and then by the time I got to, say, the end, it was a little bit different shape. Not that that's bad, but if I want it to be uniform, this is what I found that helps. Maybe it'll help you. All right, so once you have filled your space, whatever the space is, with a grid of orbs, and then two, knowing that, like I said, I usually go back and color them all in. You don't have to, but that that is something open to you. So because I look at a lot of mine, I'm like going, oh well. So the first one started off really good. And that's where it ends. But just know that it's okay. And also in Zentangle, we have no such things as mistakes. I call them course corrections. There are a host of them, and if you've been listening or taken some of my classes, I probably should do write something or do a video just on course corrections. I'm gonna wait till my pile of oopsies piles up, because maybe I'll just use that. Anyway, I'm getting away from making this a quickie video. All right, so after you get your orbs set in the grid, this is just a series of S shapes. So I'm going to start right here. And then we also incorporate this, a technique called, I know Rick calls it take off and land. When I first was doing this, I pictured, because I like to watch Star Trek, like slingshotting off of planets. I've also come up with the idea of like the wind up, the pitch, and the hit or something like that. Anyway, we'll do take off and land though. So we're going to connect the dots, or connect the orbs. But what helps with this one is if you do the takeoff. So I'm going to start here. And so maybe just watch. So I'm starting here. I'm winding up, taking off, making my S, and then landing on the dot below. So that way we're not just connecting these with an S. It's more than that. So we're tracing over this. That's the takeoff, and then doing the S shape, and then landing on the orb below. So we're essentially tracing. And then what I like to do, so I'll start, and then when I you know, instead of doing this one this way, usually for my ones like this that are on the edge, I will just turn my tile and do them that way, and then I can always continue this way. So we're doing these in basically like in a chain. So again, we're taking off and we're landing, or like I said, I'm thinking like a picture in baseball, or actually I think I had like tennis pictured, you know, so you kind of have your wind up, you release, you know, and then your follow through. Well, yeah, because I'm picturing both, when I had to take, we did tennis in gym in school, and that was one of the things was, you know, to have that follow through. You don't just hit and then you stop, you know, your racket right there. And even if you watch a baseball pitcher, you know, they do their little wind up, and then, you know, their arm doesn't stop once the ball is released. It continues, probably for injuries. Now, if your S shapes, like that one of mine was just like, that's a little interesting, then don't worry about it. Let me come back and do this one. And again, these are we're just doing these S shapes in the row. Now, if you do this, so like what I did, because I like to do this, where I'm working off the side, this is a matter of, you just have to imagine what else is out here. So I'm drawing, so that way my curve is the same. And I'm going to do that over here as well. And that one I did. There we go. All right, so now we just have these chains of S shapes. Rinse and repeat. Turn it 45 or 90 degrees. Yeah, and then rinse and repeat. Same idea, same shape. You know, take off and land. Take off and land. And if you, like I did right there, you know, if you some of mine meet right up, some of them don't. Again, don't worry about it. I mean, we can always strive for, you know, consistency, but don't let it stress you out. Just know, and I say that, and, you know, it's just like my mom saying to me, it's just a piece of paper. No, not for me. You know, and so I understand that we all, you know, take things differently. But then I do work to just think of this. Yes, it is just a piece of paper. Yes, it is just a piece of paper, to not get stressed out. So I'm sharing that so that way if something like that is stressing you out, try not to let it. And I'm doing the same thing on these little edges where I'm drawing as if there was something there. And let's see, in this one, and what's nice about this is because we're doing the same stroke over and over again, that's why you can flip it, turn your tile around and have it be, and I do like to do this, even though it's just a little mark. I don't know. It's just what I like to do. So there we have Cadent. Now, as I mentioned, so you can leave it like this, and then we'll talk about shading here in a second. Inside these orbs, like I said, I like to color them in because usually mine end up getting a little sloppy. Oops, let me do this one right here. And then, you know, and it just kind of neatens it up a little bit. And then also, if for some reason you feel like you need to change the shape a little bit of any of them, that's course correction number one when we're filling things in. The other thing I've seen people do, which is kind of cute, is just to put a dot. Mine are rather small, so the dot doesn't show up. But you can, you know, do anything in those little orbs that you might want to. Like I said, I just like to have them colored in. Personal preference, and personal preferences are okay. So now for shading, what's so neat about this tangle, and if you just take a minute and just look at what you've done, just look at it. And the amazing thing about this is that it almost doesn't need to have any shading, because to me it always looks like little scrolls. I've had some people say it looks like tiles. And, you know, so whatever you think it looks like, it does have a really, really neat look just as it is. But a couple ways that you could think about shading them is well, if you think of them, as well, either way, as a tile or scrolls, what we can do, oops, not the tortillon first, we'll put some graphite down first, is if I want to have them look overlapping, then I can put some graphite, like right here, just kind of following on the underside, so I leave one blank, and then so on this underside here, I'm putting some graphite. And then I'm going to smudge it out just a little bit. And that could be, whatever direction that you want. So we have that here, and then it looks like these are resting over, and you could do that, all the way. It seems like I have seen some that, just trying to think if they've done that, or they've done it maybe like on this side, where, they do that, and then maybe add a little bit, kind of coming down a little bit. So kind of like this would be a backwards L shape. And so this is one of those, it is completely up to you whether you want to shade it or not. But the trick is, especially to have it look overlapping, is to have this white space here. So not to have any graphite overlapping, into that section. And so leaving some of them plain and having some of them shaded, you can just kind of see. And then also, it's one of the things where it's kind of fun, turn it around, see what that looks like. And this is the fun part of playing with our tangles and experimenting with the shading and just seeing what it looks like and seeing what it looks like. Oh, that kind of looks neat from that angle. Just because it's fun, and if you're a non-artist like myself, it's fun to play and experiment, because then we're learning about this and figuring out what do we like, what works, what doesn't work, and all of that. So I hope you enjoyed this quickie video, and I hope you enjoy this tangle. Again, this is this is one of my favorites. So let me show you some examples here, mixed with some other things. Actually, this one is Huggins, which I believe I have a video on that one already done. I'm not sure if I've done Poker, and I don't think I've done Mist. But I decided it would be fun to kind of, because so my string line was right here, is to take my Huggins. I think I did essentially one grid of dots, and then take Huggins and then work it into my Cadent. And then this was just a sea of Cadent along with Rixty. Here's one where, I've just filled it into this little section here. So it's a super neat tangle, and I hope you enjoy it. Feel free to comment below if you feel so moved to subscribe and all of that. It's certainly appreciated, or share the video with friends that are tangling. That is much appreciated also. And with that, and this pile of cadence, I wish you happy tangling.